As Kiwi fashion label Koto approaches 2 decades in business, its founder Gosha Piatek and managing director Emma Wallace speak to NPR about growing a sustainable company.
I started Koto now 17 years ago, and it really came from a very humble passion on finding out how can you work out where a product is from, who made it, and like really down to its inception, from the birth of something. And I thought, well, what is an essential product? And I was thinking about all sorts of different ideas. I'm not trained from fashion, I don't come from fashion. And it was this idea of a necessity, and clothing is a necessity. We need it as humans to protect us. And what I saw out there on the market, it was like made in a country, but you didn't know where did that journey go from. And a lot of people buy fabric from suppliers in fashion. And so what Koto did, really what we did, is let's work out where the cotton seed comes from, who plants it, and then follow its journey. And the fair trade supply chain allows you to do that. So I think we made quite clever decisions from 17 years ago, but because it came from a place of heart rather than from a place of business. And then realizing that, fast forward now 17 years on, and we've got David Attenborough telling us that, things are broken. I think when you see him deflated, there's something that makes your heart go, oh. And so realizing that we are on absolutely the right journey. And today you're here with us today on a really important day, because today we have launched an entire product range in the store that is free from plastic in every single last little bit of detail. So our journey is constantly pushing forward beyond what the governments can do, and catching up with how savvy the consumers are, and going, hey, we've just seen this documentary and we want change now, and that's what we're trying to respond to. So we're solutions providers, I think, in the apparel industry, in the fashion industry, and that's how I see ourselves, a bit more radical than just making clothes because they look great. We do that, but we have 80% of our business is based around the research and development of what we do. Yeah.
I spoke to Gosha about the moment she realised she had a viable business idea and taking those first steps.
My partner, who was my ex-business partner in Koto, he ran a t-shirt brand in London, so I think I'm quite hardcore, not very movable from things, I'm like 0% plastic. So I think my vision for the brand, and then his skills, he could do graphic design and do awesome t-shirt prints that really captured an imagination. Then our skills combined together, and it was like, the aha moment actually came from a friend. I was in a vegetarian cafe in Wellington called Auntie Mina's, and she said, why don't you start a fair trade organic cotton clothing brand? And I went, what's that? And I Googled it, and then I went really deep in Googling that. And then I thought, yeah, let's do it. I wanted to start a business, and at the time I got help from the government. I was on the unemployment benefit, and we got given a $10,000 grant, I think. It was $5,000 paid out, which felt like so much money. And then $5,000 over a period of some months. And that lasted about a week, I think, because we actually landed like a huge streetwear retailer in Australia as our first customer, who had like 13 stores. Sadly, they sent back half the stock because they didn't like the print. The owner saw it was quite offensive. And it was just this, it was awesome, So, I think the clothing, I just wanted to know, I really felt like I was like, oh, well, this idea works because we can source it to the farm level.
And I think now you had a gut feeling that you wanted to create a natural product,
Yeah.
As a gut feeling, you thought natural is the way to go, and organic, so it's been organic from day one, when people probably they were starting to think about organic food maybe.
And skincare.
Skincare, yeah. So organic clothing. But now we know like this whole piece of understanding around plastics and what it's doing, the extent it has infiltrated the planet, that, it's kind of like you just had this sort of heart idea, but actually now we're seeing it, the reality of it and the impact of it, and knowing that actually avoiding plastic in as many places in life as possible is actually, it's like a no-brainer now. Like, and how do we unravel that from, 70 years of the plastic industry just being so, giving us amazing solutions. Honestly, it's been so, when people stop using Glad wrap, they go, how do I do this now? But it actually doesn't take you that long, Look what happened with grocery bags. So, yeah. I think that was cool. It's kind of the heart, but then the logic as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I think for us to really go, right, we're going to do this, we're going to take away, we only had a few components that were plastic, but to change it, it was like, this is what we got to do. We know that when we wash our garments, it ends up as microplastic in the oceans. We know that the garments end up in landfill, and we know that there's leakages from landfills into our rivers and our oceans, and they found plastic, micro components, and not components, what would you call it? Microplastics in a human embryo last year. So this is just, it's got to stop. And one of the things that we saw, and it was like a social media post, I think, and it was a pair of cotton elastane jeans, because elastane in denim is quite handy in terms of
gives you a bit of stretch.
Comfort. Shape, yeah. And ours have got that more Japanese rigid vibe to them, which I love because they soften over time. And actually there's more longevity in our denim because it is 100% organic cotton. But this garment had been put in the compost, and they took it out, and all you could see was the cross thatch of the elastane in the garment. So everything natural had decomposed, and all the elements that were still left were the synthetic elements. And I think that was a real aha moment. Do you remember seeing that?
Yeah. The plastic. Yeah. And the idea that elastin, acrylic, polyester that's in your clothing is actually plastic. So a lot of people don't even realise that, So there's been a lot of smoke and mirrors, I think, in the clothing industry and the kind of terms they use. So we're trying to help kind of give people a little bit of instruction or understanding by creating, our plastic-free handbook that we've launched today. We are always terrified about, every word that we use at Koutou, we look at and we think about and we consider and we take it out to committee and things like that, because it's so important for us to have the language that expresses things honestly. But yeah, a lot of the other industry, words like sustainability, no one really knows what that means. What if you say something sustainable, does that mean that it has got long life? Does it mean it can go back into, what does it really mean? So it's hard for consumers. So I think taking it back into terms that are simpler and breaking it down, like something is a Shell button, like it's 100% Shell. There's nothing else to it. Hopefully it makes it a bit simpler for people to make decisions, because we're bombarded by this all the time.
Quite logical, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I live now part of the year in London, and you can see the big retailers really going for it with their circularity programs, and I just think, is that for real? You have a bin that says, we take back all your old clothes, so of course I'm the kind of person that's going to look in that bin, and it was just bust like receipts and chewing gum wrappers, and you just think that feels like tokenism. But they have the sign on the window, and it's a huge retailer, and that, I think that almost makes customers think, oh, what's the point? That's clearly it's
broken. It's a bit like when you start learning about recycling, of your paper and glass. That can be kind of like,
disheartening.
It was sort of like, oh, it's not actually really happening.
Starting in wholesale and online, Gosha and Emma tell me about the move into brick and mortar and Koutou's broader growth philosophy.
We started online from day one, which a lot of fashion businesses didn't do back in 2006.
No.
So, that was amazing.
And international from day one.
International wholesale. So the business was very much down, those two channels. But then kind of, must have been 2015 or 16, I think we started feeling like we wanted to be able to show our whole collection and also be able to bring people more into our world. I think we were starting to kind of like go, hey, let's open things up a little bit more. Like, this industry is so secretive. The whole thing about fashion is being a bit like don't show people anything, you know, it's very sort of like that. We thought, let's kind of bring people into our world. And so I think creating a physical manifestation of what Koto was what we really wanted to do. And we also wanted to draw attention to the materials of the clothing by also using natural materials in our stores. So that's what we've tried to do in all the stores in slightly different ways, but yeah, really celebrating that. So people come in here and they're not surrounded by a whole lot of plastic. I mean, you feel it. You go into some stores that have a lot of plastic items, you know, you actually start feeling it. Like, it's weird when you've worked at Koto for a long time, you can feel when you wear synthetics, you know, like all those things that you get desensitized to that actually make you feel a lot better in life by not having them. So yeah, the strategy is always, I think, for everything with Koto is sort of slow and steady. We're not about, oh, we're going to go to Australia and we're going to open up 20 stores, you know. We want to understand the community, we want to understand the people, we want to give them something that's going to be meaningful and they're actually going to engage with, because it's a big investment, right?
Yeah, and we're also self-funded from day one. So for that $5,000, we've grown into the business that we are today, employing almost 50 people with zero finance.
The banks sort of don't almost know who we are because it's just like, well, you take all our money, but you know, yeah, they'll be like, oh, you don't have any. Oh, okay.
It's just unheard of, I think. Yeah. And the fact that we've been able to go, we'll put this much away and we'll open a store, because a store like this, it costs a lot to open, but we want to create a store that has longevity. We're here to stay.
To support our award-winning independent journalism, subscribe to nbr.co.nz.